session of our lesson, and the next session shall be basically to describe the functions of the components. Here with us we have a number of components which are directly attached to the motherboard. The motherboard is here and it has got slots where we can attach the components that we've dismantled. One of the components that we have is the power supply unit. This power supply unit is used to supply power to the motherboard and to all components attached to the motherboard. The power supply unit is directly fixed to the motherboard in order to supply the power to the motherboard and to other parts of the computer. It has got a fan. The power supply unit has got a fan which helps in cooling it. And for the case of this motherboard, this fan is a multi-purpose fan which is used also for cooling the CPU. Here is the CPU. The other thing which is attached to the motherboard is the RAM, which is an acronym for random access memory. This random access memory stores data as the user is currently using the computer. The RAM is directly fixed to the motherboard and it sits on the motherboard as illustrated. It sits on the motherboard as we are trying to put it on. It will have to sit on the motherboard, and care should be taken such that this RAM is tightly fixed on the motherboard and then it should be tight on the motherboard. However, when the RAM is not tightly fixed on the motherboard, when you start the machine will make some continuous noise. There is some continuous noise which is got from the machine. That is the RAM. Machines may accommodate more than one RAM plate, but for this case, it has one RAM plate. Then the other thing that we have is the compact disc. This compact disc, at times some machines have got what we call DVDs, but for this case, it is a compact disc, as it is seen here. The name is here, compact disc ROM drive. This compact ROM drive is used for reading CDs and then VCDs. It is also directly attached to the motherboard using the data cables or the address cables. So these address cables are also fixed on the motherboard. We fix them on the motherboard, and from the motherboard then another data cable must be put on the CD-ROM such that there is communication between the motherboard and then the CD-ROM. However, the CD-ROM must be powered. So a power cable, one of the power cables, must be put on the CD-ROM, the CD drive, such that it can be powered and it becomes functional.
Maybe the other parts that are connected to the CPU, to the system unit, are the hard disk. The hard disk also has where the data cable goes and also where the power cable also goes. The hard disk differ in capacity. For example, this one is a 40 GB hard disk. From this label here, it's a 40 GB hard disk. Hard disks also differ in capacity. Here is a hard disk. You are also going to fix the hard disk. This hard disk is used to store information permanently on the computer. Remember, our friend told us that this RAM here stores information as you're working with the computer, but this one here stores information permanently. We're also going to fix it on the motherboard through the data cables.
So the data cable must be first of all fixed on the motherboard slot.
And through the data cables, we now fix to our hard disk. We also power the hard disk so that it also gets power through this point, through this port here. Here we have the power slot. So we're now fixing the power cable like that. The other things that might be connected to the computer are these slots. Here we have a network card. We have other cards that can be fixed into the computer, like the TV cards, the sound card, in case the one on the computer has a problem. But lucky enough, for this computer, look at this computer at the back here. Look at this motherboard. There's no sound card. This isn't any sound here. This isn't any port for sound. So we're now fixing. If you want to, you can go and buy another slot like this one, but this time for sound. It can be fixed in any of these slots here. So this network card can be fixed here. For this case of the motherboard, it can be fixed here. But you find out that other network cards can also be fixed here, in these other slots. Then this one is also another drive. So it's also another drive, and it is called a floppy drive. It is used to read floppy disks. Floppy disks, like this one here, and it is normally fixed here, like this. So you're also going to connect a floppy disk to a motherboard.
The process of connecting a floppy disk begins with, as usual, putting this belt onto the motherboard. We first of all fix this belt here. You see, when we talk of other drives, for example, the CD drive and the hard disk drive, the appearance of the belt of the hard drive and then the CD drive is not similar to that of the floppy disk. This one is quite smaller and it has fewer pins. So what we do, we fix it onto the motherboard. We fix it onto the motherboard, and then
we now fix it to the floppy drive, like this. You see that it cannot fit this side, you turn the other side. Then also, if you are to look at the power cable for the floppy drive is different from the rest. This is how it looks, and it is also placed somewhere here. The power cable of the floppy disk is placed somewhere here. So we have connected our components to the floppy disk. We have connected our components to the floppy disk. Like this.